Friends, cousins, community members, and first responders have been mourning the death of the Karolkiewicz family.
Now, cousin Emily Jones and the chief of the Grand Haven Township Fire Department are sharing their thoughts about what happened and how they're moving forward.
On a quiet street in Grand Haven Township, Michigan, firefighters were called out twice in one morning before they finally understood what they were walking into. The first time, they couldn't even find the fire. The second time, they found a family of 8 dead inside their home. A husband, a wife, 6 children, ages 5 to 15. And as investigators pieced together what happened in that house, they uncovered something even more disturbing hiding in plain sight online, posted years before anyone knew this family's name would be in the news. Before we get into what really happened here, if you find value in these kinds of deep dives, take a second to like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to Real True Crime Analysis with notifications on. It genuinely helps this channel keep bringing you cases like this one. Okay, let's get into it. Amanda Karolkiewicz went by Mandy. She was 39 years old, a substitute teacher at Peach Plains Elementary in the Grand Haven Area Public Schools district. The people who knew her described someone who lit up a room. Her school district said she went above and beyond for students, especially the ones having a hard day. She responded to people with empathy and patience. She poured herself into her work. That's not just a nice thing people say after a tragedy. That was her reputation while she was still alive and teaching, built over years of showing up for other people's children the same way she showed up for her own. Mandy was raising 6 children alongside her husband, Christopher, who went by Kris. 4 boys, ages 15, 12, 11, and 5. 2 girls, both 11, who were adopted from China. Family members have identified the children as Keegan, Bennett, Caroline, Ella, Smith, and Teddy. 6 kids, 6 personalities, 6 sets of hopes that their family and friends had for them. Mandy loved to travel, and she loved doing it with her kids. Just over a week before she died, she had taken her 2 daughters to China, sharing videos of the trip, dressed in traditional Hanfu clothing, writing about how proud she was of their heritage. Earlier that spring, she had also posted about a family trip to Captiva Island in Florida, photos of her kids on the beach during spring break, the kind of ordinary, joyful family content that fills up so many of our own social media feeds. On July 17th, she posted one more video. The family was heading home from China. Her caption read, "We are so ready to be home, sweet home." Kris Karolkiewicz was 47. He worked as a national vice president of sales and marketing for the American Heart Association, a role he'd held since September of 2023, working remotely from their home in Michigan for the organization's headquarters. He supported their CPR and first aid training division. In 2019, marking their 10th wedding anniversary, he wrote on Facebook that he was a very lucky guy. That's who these 2 people were, at least from the outside. A teacher who cared deeply about kids, a marketing executive with a national health organization, a family of 8 with pets in a home on Riverside Trail. On paper and on social media, this looked like a family that was doing well. That's part of what makes this case so unsettling to so many people. There was no obvious warning sign visible to the public before that Friday. Here's where the timeline gets specific and where the case starts to raise real questions. On Friday, July 24th, at around 8:30 in the morning, firefighters and deputies were called to the area because of the smell of smoke. They searched but couldn't locate an actual fire. No visible flames, nothing they could pin down to a specific house. So they left. Then, at 11:42 that same morning, they got another call. This time, people were reporting visible white smoke coming from the Karolkiewicz home specifically. Firefighters returned and began working to put out the fire from outside the house. When they finally went inside to fight the blaze directly, that's when they found the family. All 8 of them, dead. What do you think happened in those 3 hours between the first call and the second? That's a question investigators have had to sit with too. And it's one of the more chilling details in this entire case, because it suggests the fire may have started slowly, quietly, well before anyone outside that house realized something was wrong. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office took the lead on the investigation, and by Monday, 3 days after the bodies were found, They had enough from the autopsies to make an official statement. All 8 family members had died from gunshot wounds. Investigators believe Kris shot his wife and all 6 children before turning the gun on himself. Mandy and the children's deaths were ruled homicides. Kris's death was ruled a suicide. The weapon used was legally registered to him. And notably, there had been no prior police calls to that home. No documented history of domestic violence complaints. No restraining orders. Nothing on record that had brought law enforcement to that address before that Friday morning. For a case this violent, that absence of any prior record is itself something investigators have had to reckon with. Then there's the fire. Michigan State Police arson investigators determined it had been set intentionally in multiple locations throughout the house. And critically, they believe the fire was started after the shootings, not before and not during. That detail matters because it tells us this wasn't a chaotic, split-second act. Setting fires in several places takes time. It takes movement through a home where his wife and 6 children were already gone. Does that sound like a moment of sudden rage to you? Or something else, something closer to a plan, carried out step by step? That's one of the central questions this case keeps circling back to, and it's a question the sheriff's office itself has acknowledged they may never fully answer. The family's pets also died in the fire from smoke inhalation. Investigators have not said how many pets there were, but it's one more detail that speaks to the scale of what was lost in that house that morning, a loss that extended even to the animals who lived alongside this family. As word of the tragedy spread, another detail surfaced that added a strange new layer. Just weeks before the killings, Kris Karolkiewicz's employment with the American Heart Association had ended. The organization confirmed he'd worked there since September 2023, but said his job ended earlier that July, just before the family died. When asked why, the American Heart Association declined to say, citing standard policy on personnel matters. So we don't know if he was fired, if he resigned, or if there was some other reason his job ended. What we do know is the timing. He lost a national vice president role, and within weeks, his entire family was dead. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. Job loss alone doesn't explain violence like this, and plenty of people lose careers without anyone getting hurt. But investigators would be negligent not to look closely at what was happening in his life in those final weeks. And by all accounts, that's exactly what they're doing. Losing a high-level national role after less than 2 years can shake a person's sense of identity and stability in ways that aren't always visible from the outside. And it's a thread this case may never fully unravel. Then came a development that the family itself has publicly struggled with. A Reddit account using the username MandyK1179 surfaced online, and multiple outlets say they independently verified details on the account, matching Mandy's marriage dates, her age, her children's ages, her occupation, and where she lived. The earliest post on this account, dating back further, described someone who was then an aspiring teacher who enjoyed shopping in downtown Grand Haven and Holland and visiting the local Tri-Cities Museum. Ordinary, low-stakes glimpses into a life. But the posts that drew the most attention were roughly 2 years old, dating back to around 2024. In them, the account holder described a difficult marriage. She wrote about deciding to cut extended family out of their lives to protect her mental health. She described an incident where she pushed her husband after learning about what she called an emotional affair, writing that she didn't feel bad about it, that he towered over her, and that it felt like a fight or flight response. She also wrote about going to therapy and about her own sobriety, saying she'd stopped drinking to work through things without numbing herself, and that she still felt triggered by it all at times, even years later. Another post referenced an older, previously divorced husband and alleged infidelity with a co-worker years into the marriage. Now, here's where I want to be very careful, because the family has been too. Mandy's cousin, speaking on behalf of the family, said clearly that they have no way to confirm Mandy actually wrote those posts. She said that whoever wrote them was likely using Reddit as an anonymous outlet to say things they felt they couldn't say out loud in their real life, and that this is sad regardless of who wrote it. The sheriff's office has echoed that caution too, noting that people online often share opinions and suppositions, not facts. A domestic violence advocate in the area also urged the public not to draw conclusions before the actual facts come out, A reminder that in cases like this, online sleuthing can move much faster than actual verified investigation. So we have to hold two things at once here. These posts, if genuine, would suggest a marriage under real strain, with allegations of infidelity on both sides of the story and moments of real conflict. But genuine and confirmed are not the same thing. And right now, this remains unverified. Does this detail feel important to you? It might be. But it's also exactly the kind of thing that can mislead an investigation if people online treat it as settled fact before authorities do. It's worth remembering that even verified accounts only tell us what someone chose to share publicly, which is never the whole picture of a marriage or a family. As of the most recent updates, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office has said the case remains open. No note explaining a motive has been found. Investigators have said plainly that this may be a tragedy they never completely understand. They're still working through documents recovered from the home, still trying to build a clear picture of what led to that Friday morning. That kind of honesty from law enforcement is rare, and it tells you something about how genuinely difficult this case has been to piece together. Meanwhile, the community has been left to grieve in very public ways. A memorial made of flowers, cards, and toys grew along Riverside Trail in front of the family's home. Nightly counseling sessions were offered to neighbors, first responders, and students who knew the children. A local parish held a rosary prayer service, welcoming anyone who wanted to come together in grief. A youth ministry group opened its doors specifically for teenagers processing the loss of their classmates. Mandy's family launched a GoFundMe to cover legal expenses and to establish a scholarship in the children's memory, writing that no words could capture the kind of heartbreak they were feeling. A national gun violence nonprofit stepped in to help with funeral costs, and the family confirmed they were left planning not one, not two, but 7 funerals, a number that's almost impossible to sit with. Through all of this, Mandy's family has made one request consistently and clearly. They've asked people to stop speculating and to remember who these people actually were before this happened. Her cousin said it directly. Look at Mandy for who she was. Look at her kids for who they were, not because of how they died. That's a request worth sitting with, especially in true crime spaces like this one, where it's easy to get lost in theories and forget there were 6 children with names, favorite trips, and futures that mattered. Whatever answers eventually come out of this investigation, those 6 children deserve to be remembered as more than a footnote in someone else's decision. Mandy's parents also spoke publicly in the days after the news broke, describing their daughter as a kind and devoted soul who loved her family and her students. They said they treasured every moment they had with her and her 6 grandchildren, and that words couldn't adequately express their devastation. It captures something important about how this family has chosen to respond publicly, not with anger toward speculation, but with grief and a plea for privacy as they navigate something almost no family is prepared to face. It's also worth asking why a case like this generates so much public fascination in the first place. Part of it is the contrast between how this family appeared online and what may have actually been happening behind closed doors. Part of it is the scale of the loss. 8 people from one household gone in a single morning. And part of it is simply the unanswered question at the center of it all. Could investigators have overlooked something important in the weeks or months before this happened? Right now, there's no evidence to suggest that. But it's a fair question, and it's one the sheriff's office says it's still actively working to answer as they continue reviewing documents from inside the home. So where does that leave us? We know Kris Karolkiewicz killed his wife and 6 children, then set fires throughout their home, then killed himself. We know he'd recently lost a national-level job, for reasons that haven't been made public. We know there are unverified posts suggesting a troubled marriage, allegations of infidelity, and past conflict, but no confirmation those posts even came from Mandy. We know investigators have found no motive note, and the case remains open. And we know a community and an extended family are left trying to make sense of something that may never fully make sense. What do you think really happened in that house? Was this building for years, hidden behind a family that looked from the outside like it was thriving? Or could something more sudden have triggered it? Something investigators haven't uncovered yet? I'd genuinely like to know what you think. So let's talk about it respectfully in the comments below, keeping in mind that this is a real family with real grief behind every headline. If you found this analysis informative, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Real True Crime Analysis, and turn on notifications so you never miss another investigation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next case.